Hello everyone. In the previous video lecture, we saw Prakarana-vakratā or the deviant utterance with respect to the episode. The next category of Vakrokti that we are going to see is Prabandha-vakratā. This is the Vakratā related to the plot. According to Kundaka, Prabandha-vakratā has got 7 varieties, namely rasāntara-vinyāsa-vakratā, nāyakotkkarṣa-nibandhana-vakratā, prāsaṃgika-kathārasa-nibandhana-vakratā, aneka-phala-sambatti-vakratā, kāvya-nāma-vakratā, anyonya-vailakṣanya-vakratā, nāyakotkkarṣa-vakratā. Now, let's take a look at these varieties in detail. The first variety of Prabandha-vakratā that we are going to take a look at is rasāntara-vinyāsa-vakratā. Rasāntara-vinyāsa-vakratā is the way in which a story can be made new by changing the generally accepted rasa of a well-known story. Kundaka defines rasāntara-vinyāsa-vakratā in the following words. When there is a departure from the enriched rasas of the source book and a new delightful rasa is delineated by the poet at the conclusion of his work, it is called rasāntara-vinyāsa-vakratā. An example of this form of vakratā is the drama Veni-samhara by Bhattanarayana. Veni-samhara is based on the Mahabharata. As we all know, the dominant rasa of the Mahabharata is Shantarasa. But in Veni-samhara, Bhattanarayana infuses Veerarasa instead of Shantarasa of the source text. To achieve Veerarasa, the poet stops the story of the Mahabharata at a point where Yudhishthira win over his enemies, as opposed to the original ending where Pandavas leave their power and prowess and go for the forest dwelling. This ending of the story in Veni-samhara, where Yudhishthira and other Pandavas win the battle of Kurukshetra, invokes Veerarasa in the readers. Kundaka notes, he so efforts the innovation that the entire lot of their enemies lies slain on the battlefield, and Yudhishthira, the champion of undiluted royal duty, is made to be attended with triumphant success at the end. This novel conclusion partakes of beauty in respect of the work as a whole and provides infinite delight to cultured readers. They will indeed think along these lines. Though victimized by so many untoward calamities, Pandavas could still overthrow their enemies by dint of the steadily increased strength of their side and could ultimately win royal glory. Another example that Kundaka cites is Bhavabhūti's Uttara-Ramacharita, which is based on the Ramayana. The primary rasa of the Ramayana is Karuna rasa, but in Uttara-Ramacharita, the Karuna rasa of the source text is replaced with Sringara rasa. How does the poet achieve it? We know that the Ramayana ends with the descent of Sita into the nether world and Rama and Lakshmana putting an end to their life by jumping into the river Sarayu. These tragic events invariably instill grief in us, thereby generating the Karuna rasa. But in Uttara-Ramacharita, these events are not included. In Uttara-Ramacharita, the Ramayana story ends with the reunion of Sita and Rama in the hermitage of Valmiki. This love in union is further enhanced by Rama witnessing the valor of his son Lava, who was proficient in using divine missiles. Kundaka further observes that a delineation of the ultimate success and prosperity of the hero after overcoming all calamities will contribute to extreme delight in spectators. The next form of Vakrokti that Kundaka mentions is nāyakotkkarṣa-nibandhana-vakratā. What is nāyakotkkarṣa-nibandhana-vakratā? This form of Vakrokti is employed when an already existing story is retold by the poet. Here, the story is retold in such a way that It enhances the glory of the hero. As opposed to following the actual ending of the story in the source text, the poet who is employing the nāyakotkkarṣa-nibandhana-vakratā ends the story at a particular juncture where the glory of the hero is at its peak. Here, the primary aim of choosing a different juncture to stop the story is to enhance the charm and greatness of the lead character. Kundaka notes, a master poet might begin his work with the story as found in the original sources of the epics, but he should be alert in ending his work only with such an incident in the original source as it will promote the extraordinary glory of the peerless hero, admired in wonder by all the three worlds. A case in point is Bharavi's epic poem Kiratārjuniya, which is based on the Mahabharata. In the introduction of the poem, the poet says that he originally had the intention of portraying the killing of Duryodhana and the victory of Dharmaputra or Yudhishthira. But in the story portrayed in Kiratārjuniya, the poet actually does not take up these avowed elements. On the other hand, he stops the story with the fight between Shiva and Arjuna's winning of the divine missile Pashupata from Shiva. So the story ends with Arjuna winning the battle against Shiva, who is disguised as a tribal. Kundaka notes that if the poet had narrated the whole story of the Mahabharata, the story would not have been able to portray Arjuna as a noble hero, since Arjuna himself had committed many heinous acts to win the battle of Kurukshetra. For example, Kundaka says, Arjuna killed Karna, the king of Anga, while Karna was trying to lift up his chariot, which had sunk in the mire in the battlefield. Though the learned warriors told Arjuna that it is not correct to kill Karna while Karna was trying to lift up his chariot stuck in the mire, Arjuna did not pay heed to them. Another instance which can be a blotch on the greatness of Arjuna is his treacherous killing of Bhishma by placing Shikhandin in his front. Bhishma had famously proclaimed that he would not fight with a Shikhandin. Knowing very well about this decision by Bhishma, Arjuna kept Shikhandin in front of Bhishma. Seeing Shikhandin in front of him, Bhishma stopped fighting. At this point, Arjuna shot arrows at Bhishma and killed him. If the whole story of the Mahabharata is narrated, then it is impossible to present Arjuna as a blemishless character, and it will adversely affect his greatness. So the poet Bharavi does not go on to describe the whole events from the Mahabharata in the poem. He stops the story at a point when the greatness of Arjuna is at its peak. Kundaka concludes this section by saying that only when the impediments in the way of the hero's performance of mighty and spirited feats of valor are removed properly, the character of the hero will shine at its best. The next variety of Vakrokti that we are going to see under Prabandha Vakratā is prāsaṃgika-kathārasa-nibandhana-vakratā. Prāsaṃgika-kathārasa-nibandhana-vakratā is the way in which the author transforms what is generally deemed to be a digression from the main story into an interesting event in the main plot, so that this digression becomes or turns out to be inevitable for the main story. Let's see the words of Kundaka in this regard. Kundaka says, even when there is a story whose main course is obscured by the intrusion of extraneous incidents, its novelty may be ensured in another way. The slackening of interest in the conclusion of the main story due to the impediment of an incident may be overcome by so depicting the incident that it will become an inevitable means for bringing about the desired end. Thus, the impediment occurring in the original source might be removed and a smooth flow of the intended sentiment may well be ensured. Kundaka continues, the substance of it is this: an incident which might first appear as an intruding obstacle in the progress of the main story may be given an artificial twist by the poet so that the seemingly intruding incident itself will contribute directly in bringing about the intended conclusions and promotes the intended rasa to flower out like a lily and attains exquisite charm of originality. Kundaka is repeating the same idea over and over again in different words. I just thought of quoting these words just to give you a flare of the source text Vakrokti Jivita. The example that Kundaka cites to explain this form of Vakrokti is a scene from the Mahakavya Shishupala-vatha. In Shishupala-vatha, Narada requests Krishna on behalf of Indra to kill Shishupala. When Narada informs Krishna about the atrocities committed by Shishupala, Krishna gets really enraged. But instead of going to the Mahishmati, the city of Shishupala, Krishna goes to attend the Rajasuya sacrifice conducted by Yudhishthira. This is an apparent diversion in the smooth flow of the story. But this diversion is turned into a powerful element in the story by the poet. How does he do that? In the Rajasuya sacrifice, Yudhishthira offers to Krishna the Agra Puja. Agra Puja is the honors and attentions rendered to the principal man present in the sacrifice. At this point, Shishupala also reaches there. Seeing the amount of attention paid to Krishna, Shishupala gets really enraged and insults Krishna. Krishna had previously forgiven all the mistakes committed by Shishupala because Krishna had given a promise to Shishupala's mother that he would forgive the 99 mistakes committed by Shishupala. This is the 100th mistake of Shishupala, so Krishna kills him. Thus, the thread which took the story in the opposite direction is turned into an effective way to yield the designated goal. The next category we are going to see is aneka-phala-sambatti-vakratā. Aneka-phala-sambatti-vakratā. Aneka-phala-sambatti-vakratā refers to the manipulation of the plot to enhance the glory of a hero by showing him achieving a lot of subsidiary feats besides his ultimate goal. Kundaka's observation in this regard is very noteworthy. He says, the hero may be portrayed as having one sole aim or concern for his activities, but ultimately he is crowned with numerous or infinite achievements, each as great as the one for which he strove, or each of which flows out of the primary achievement itself. This makes him a recipient of boundless glory, a radiant glory which exceeds the limits of the universe itself, and this glory arises from the extraordinary greatness on the hero's part. According to Kundaka, the example for this form of Vakratā is abundantly found in the play Nagananda by Harsha. In Nagananda, Jimutavahana sacrifices his own life to save a serpent named Shankachuda. In this process, Jimutavahana saves not only Shankachuda but the whole race of Nagas. This form of Vakratā can be found in the Vikram Vedal stories, Adventures of Sinbad, the Sailor, or Robin Hood, etc. The next variety that we are going to familiarize ourselves with is Kavya Nama Vakratā. Kavya Nama Vakratā. Kundaka thought that titles that convey the gist of the story like Abhijnana Shakuntala or Mudra Rakshasa added to the beauty of the work. Kundaka says, the proper name itself reveals the abounding inventive power of the poet, since it significantly highlights the most important and interesting aspect of the whole plot itself, serving as the vital essence as it were of the work as a whole. For example, we might cite such titles of plays such as Abhijnana Shakuntala, Mudra Rakshasa, Pradima Nirutha, Maya Pushpaga, Kritya Ravana, Chalida Rama, Pushpadushika, etc. Such significantly delightful titles given to literary works also appear matchless insofar as they reveal the underlying important threads that go to form a unified, connected plot by their interrelation. But Kundaka warns that one should definitely avoid such straightforward titles like Hayagriva Vatha, Shishupala Vatha, Pandavapyudaya, Ramananda, Ramacharita, etc. There is no Vakrata in them. They very plainly inform the readers what the story of the text is. The next variety that we are going to see is Anyonya-Vailakshanya-Vakratā. Anyonya-Vailakshanya-Vakratā. Anyonya-Vailakshanya-Vakratā is that kind of Vakrata which is achieved by the retelling of a familiar story in such a way that it appears new to the readers. Kundaka says, numerous literary works might be composed by several master poets on one and the same delightful original story, and yet each will have an individuality of its own and will prove equally appealing to connoisseurs without any trace of mutual correspondence. This is called Anyonya-Vailakshanya-Vakratā. According to Kundaka, the same story of Rama was told by different poets, but they all look different. For example, literary works like Ramapyudaya, Udattaraghava, Veeracharita, Balaramayana, Kritya Ravana, Maya Pushpaga, etc. Kundaka says, although these works are based on an identical theme, they embody a rich flow of varied and individual sentiments, and each incident radiates a new glow of originality and fills them with brilliance. Kundaka's observation about this restructuring of a familiar plot is particularly notable in this context. Kundaka says that when Vakrokti is properly used, even literary works which deal with the same story look different, just as creatures belonging to the same species do not look alike. The last variety we are going to see is Nāyakotkkarṣa-Vakratā. Nāyakotkkarṣa-Vakratā. A writer can make use of the work to convey his ideas on ethics and morality. This constitutes Nāyakotkkarṣa-Vakratā. According to Kundaka, when great works which impart instruction in fresh ways of political strategy, such as Sama or gentle negotiation, the works again gain in beauty. The purport is this: whatever be the work of a great poet, it becomes full of absorbing interest only when it embodies a new strategy for success in life, set forth along novel lines. Kundaka cites Mudra Rakshasa as an example of this form of Vakrokti. The characters in Mudra Rakshasa excel in presenting fresh and novel modes of political strategy for the readers to make their intelligence very sharp. The same is the case with Tapasa-Vatsaraja. In Mayura Raja's Tapasa-Vatsaraja, which is an emendation of Bhasa's Swapna-Vasavadatta, the minister lies to King Udayana that Queen Vasavadatta perished in the fire. This is not to conduct the marriage between Udayana and Padmavati, but to save the king who is enamored by Vasavadatta to the point of neglecting his kingly duties. Finally, Kundaka wraps up his discussion of the concept of Vakrokti with the following words: absence of literary beauty may be found only in bad literature. How can it ever have place in the great works of master poets, works which are the shining shoots of their immortal glory? Having seen the last variety of Vakrokti, let's summarize all the major forms of Vakrokti under Prabandha Vakratā once again. The first variety is rasāntara-vinyāsa-vakratā. Rasāntara-vinyāsa-vakratā is the way in which a story can be made new by changing the generally accepted rasa of a well-known story. The second variety is nāyakotkkarṣa-nibandhana-vakratā. This form of Vakrokti is employed when an already existing story is retold by the poet. Here, the story is retold in such a way that it enhances the glory of the hero. As opposed to following the actual ending of the story in the source text, the poet, who is employing nāyakotkkarṣa-nibandhana-vakratā, ends the story at a particular juncture where the glory of the hero is at its peak. The third variety is prāsaṃgika-kathārasa-nibandhana-vakratā. Prāsaṃgika-kathārasa-nibandhana-vakratā is the way in which the author transforms what is generally deemed to be a digression from the main story into an interesting event in the main plot, so that this digression becomes or turns out to be inevitable for the main story. The fourth variety, that is aneka-phala-sambatti-vakratā, refers to the manipulation of the plot to enhance the glory of a hero by showing him achieving a lot of subsidiary feats besides his ultimate goal. The fifth variety, called kavya-nama-vakratā, is a form of vakratā which is achieved by proper naming. A story is named in such a way that it encapsulates the gist of the story. The sixth variety, called anyonya-vailakṣanya-vakratā, is that kind of vakratā which is achieved by the retelling of a familiar story in such a way that it appears new to the readers. The last variety, that is nāyakotkkarṣa-vakratā, is achieved by instilling some moral values indirectly in the story, so that the readers who read the story get some lessons for their lives. These are the major forms of vakratā that Kundaka had listed under Prabandha Vakratā. If you have any doubts about this, please watch the video once again. Thank you.